A child can vanish in seconds. One moment they're laughing in the sunlight, the next, gone. No sound, no warning. Just empty space where life once flourished. In Maplewood, a town where people still left doors unlocked and children played freely in front yards, this reality seemed impossible. Lined with century-old oak trees and pristine colonial homes, the community prided itself on safety. Crime was something that happened elsewhere, in bigger cities where people lived among strangers. But on June 17, 2014, Maplewood learned how quickly paradise could shatter. 6-year-old Oliver Grayson disappeared from his front yard in broad daylight. No witnesses, no struggle, no trace. One moment he was building a fortress of twigs near the garden. The next, only the abandoned sticks remained, arranged in a circle like a silent memorial to the boy who'd crafted them. The disappearance transformed Maplewood overnight. Search parties combed every inch of woodland. Police interviewed dozens of residents. Parents clutched their children closer. And beneath the surface of neighborly concern, suspicion began to take root. No one imagined that 4 years later, Oliver's father would find answers buried under the neighbor's dog kennel, a discovery that would expose the darkness hiding in plain sight. Before we continue this chilling story, take a moment to let us know where you're watching from in the comments. And if you're interested in more unsolved mysteries and true crime stories, hit that subscribe button. It's completely free and helps our community grow. Oliver Grayson was sunshine embodied. His unruly sandy hair refused to stay combed, always falling across bright blue eyes that missed nothing. At 6, he possessed that rare combination of boundless energy and unusual focus. While other children flitted between activities, Oliver could spend hours arranging his collection of toy cars or studying ants as they marched across the sidewalk. He asked questions that made adults pause, his first-grade teacher would later tell investigators. The kind that showed he was thinking about things differently than most children his age. His mother, Liana, had left a promising career in architectural design to raise Oliver, channeling her creative energy into making their home a wonderland of exploration. Their backyard featured a vegetable garden where Oliver had his own small plot, a treehouse his father had built on his 4th birthday, and a collection of bird feeders that attracted cardinals and blue jays. Damian Grayson worked as a civil engineer at a firm just 10 minutes from their home. Each morning before leaving, he'd hide a small treasure, a polished rock, a foreign coin, a toy soldier, somewhere in the yard for Oliver to discover. Each evening, he'd listen with genuine interest as his son described the day's adventures. They were the family everyone wanted to be, recalled Amanda Porter, who lived across the street. The kind that made you believe in happy endings. Next door stood the home of Harold Finch. Unlike the meticulously maintained Grayson property with its cheerful yellow door and window boxes spilling with geraniums, Finch's house projected quiet neglect. The grey paint had begun to peel. The lawn grew slightly too long between infrequent mowings. Thick curtains remained perpetually drawn. Finch himself was a man of precise habits. Each morning at exactly 7:15, he would emerge to collect his newspaper. Each evening at 6:30, he would walk his 2 German shepherds, massive, silent animals that neighbors rarely heard bark. The dogs lived in a custom-built kennel in the backyard, its wooden walls reinforced with metal mesh, its foundation poured concrete. "He never bothered anyone," Damian would later recall. "But he never connected either. Just nodded when we waved. We thought he was just private. We never imagined..." June 17th began like any perfect summer day. The temperature had reached a comfortable 78 degrees by mid-morning, when Liana opened the kitchen windows to let the breeze carry in the scent of freshly cut grass. Oliver had finished his breakfast of dinosaur-shaped pancakes and asked permission to play in the front yard while she prepared lunch. "Stay where I can see you if I check the window," she reminded him, a routine caution that would haunt her for years to come. At 11:42 a.m., Liana glanced out to see Oliver arranging sticks into elaborate patterns near the bird bath. At 11:57, she sliced apples for his lunch, humming along to the radio. At 12:10, she called his name from the porch. No answer. She called again, stepping onto the lawn, expecting to see him crouched behind the bushes or climbing the old maple tree. Silence. The sticks lay abandoned. The yard empty. The street quiet, except for the distant hum of a lawnmower several houses down. "Oliver?" Her voice rose, edged with the first tremor of fear. She walked the perimeter of their property, checking his favorite hiding spots, each step quicker than the last. By 12:18, she was running, calling his name with increasing desperation. At 12:22, she called Damien. At 12:25, she called 911. Neighbors emerged from homes as Liana's cries grew more frantic. Amanda Porter organized a group to check nearby yards. Retired schoolteacher Walter Morris got in his car to drive slowly through adjacent streets. College student Kayla Bennett searched the small wooded area behind the cul-de-sac. Damien arrived at 12:43, his tie askew, face drained of color. By then, the first police cruiser had pulled up, followed quickly by two more. Officer Ray Mendoza took initial statements while his colleagues began establishing a search perimeter. "He wouldn't just wander off," Liana kept insisting, her hands twisting the hem of her shirt. "He knows not to leave the yard." As afternoon shadows lengthened, more officials arrived. The search expanded. Dogs sniffed Oliver's pajamas for his scent. Helicopters circled overhead. Officers knocked on doors, asking the same questions repeatedly. Harold Finch wasn't home when police first arrived at his door. He returned at 4:17 p.m., driving his weathered blue pickup truck carefully into the garage. When questioned, he explained he'd been running errands in Westbrook, the neighboring town. Yes, he had receipts. No, he hadn't seen anything unusual before leaving. No, he hadn't noticed Oliver playing when he left around 11:30. "The boy seems well behaved," he said, in his soft, precise way. "Never had any trouble with him coming into my yard or bothering the dogs." As darkness fell, the Grayson home blazed with lights. Officers converted their dining room into a command center. Phones rang constantly. Volunteers returned exhausted, only to set out again with flashlights. Search teams called Oliver's name into the growing darkness, their voices echoing unanswered through Maplewood's quiet streets. By midnight, the first news vans had arrived. By dawn, Oliver's smile beamed from the television screens of a horrified community that now realized the unthinkable had happened in their midst. The investigation moved with methodical intensity. Detective Sam Howard, a 20-year veteran specializing in missing persons, took charge. Within 48 hours, they had interviewed 73 neighbors, checked security footage from every business within a 3-mile radius, and examined every storm drain, shed, and abandoned building in the area. "The first 48 hours are critical," Howard told the Graysons on the second night. "We're doing everything possible. But possibility has limits. No security cameras had captured Oliver walking away. No witnesses reported seeing a struggling child or suspicious vehicle. The bloodhounds followed his scent to the street in front of the house, then lost it completely, suggesting he'd been placed in a vehicle. The Grayson home became unrecognizable. Liana moved mechanically through days punctuated by interviews and phone calls. She slept on the sofa, afraid to miss a ring if someone called with news. Damien paced endlessly, stopping at windows to stare outside, as if expecting Oliver to suddenly appear. "I keep thinking there's something I'm not seeing," he confessed to Detective Howard on the fourth day. "Some clue right in front of us." The community mobilized with remarkable efficiency. Volunteers established a rotation to bring meals to the Graysons. Local businesses donated funds for search equipment. Churches held prayer vigils. Over 5,000 flyers with Oliver's face spread across 3 counties. Media coverage intensified. Local outlets gave daily updates. Then national programs picked up the story. Boy vanishes in broad daylight. Reporters scrutinized every aspect of Maplewood, questioning its veneer of safety. Satellite trucks lined the once quiet street. The investigation expanded beyond the neighborhood. Sex offender registries within a 100-mile radius were checked. Border Patrol received alerts. Hospitals reviewed recent admissions. Each potential lead withered under investigation. Meanwhile, subtle currents of suspicion rippled through conversations. Neighbors began recalling strange behaviors that had seemed innocent before. The high school teacher who photographed birds a little too close to code playgrounds. The delivery driver whose route passed the Grayson home multiple times daily. The new family that kept to themselves. And Harold Finch, whose alibi checked out, but whose demeanor unsettled investigators. His home was searched, like all others in the vicinity. The German shepherds watched silently as officers examined the kennel, the basement, the attic. Nothing seemed amiss, yet Detective Howard made notes about the precision with which Finch maintained his dog's space compared to the general disrepair of his home. "Something feels off," Howard confided to his partner. "But feelings aren't evidence." As weeks passed, the investigation yielded nothing but dead ends. The command center at the Grayson home gradually dismantled. The media moved on to fresher tragedies. The searches became less frequent, then stopped entirely. Only the flyers remained, Oliver's smile fading on lampposts as summer rains washed against them. Summer faded to fall, and Maplewood attempted to resume normal life. Children returned to school, all except one first-grade desk that remained empty. Halloween decorations appeared, though no one placed a pumpkin outside the Grayson home. Christmas lights twinkled from eaves, but the once festive yellow house remained dark. Time moved strangely for the Graysons. For them, clocks seemed forever frozen at 12:10 p.m. on June 17th. Liana eventually returned to work, her colleagues pretending not to notice how she startled at every child's laugh. Damien went through motions at his firm, producing adequate work, while his mind constantly spun theories about what might have happened. Every 3 months, Detective Howard checked in. Every 6 months, the case received official review. Each anniversary brought renewed media interest, a brief flurry of cameras and questions that quickly subsided. Oliver's room remained untouched. His dinosaur bedspread still neatly made, his calendar forever showing June. Liana dusted weakly, speaking softly to the empty space as if her son might somehow hear. Seasons cycled, new families moved to Maplewood, new children played in yards. The town's memory of the tragedy softened around the edges, becoming part of local lore rather than raw wound. Through it all, Harold Finch maintained his precise routine. Each morning, newspaper. Each evening, dogs. His property grew more neglected, gutters sagging, shutters askew, but the kennel remained immaculate. Sometimes neighbors noticed him watching children from his window, though when confronted, he would simply say he was looking for his cats. The second anniversary passed, then the third. Oliver's case file grew thick with leads investigated and dismissed. His age-progressed photo showed how he might look at 8, then 9, a child no one had seen grow. For Damien, anger became a constant companion, anger at whoever had taken his son, At police for failing to find answers, at neighbours for resuming normal lives, at Finch for his strange presence next door, watching silently as their lives unravelled. "Sometimes I feel like I'm going crazy," Damien told Liana on the night before the 4th anniversary. "Like the answer is right there, but I can't see it." If you're finding this story as haunting as I did when researching it, hit that like button. It helps more people discover this channel and these important stories. On May 2nd, 2018, Harold Finch died quietly in his sleep. The mail carrier noticed newspapers accumulating and called police for a welfare check. They found him in his recliner, apparently having suffered a heart attack several days earlier. His 2 German shepherds, still locked in their kennel, had begun howling constantly, their food and water depleted. Animal control removed the dogs. A distant nephew in Nebraska was notified. A small obituary appeared in the local paper, noting Finch's 27 years as a night security guard at Westbrook Community College before his retirement. No service was held. For the Graysons, Finch's death registered as a minor ripple in their ongoing grief. Liana barely acknowledged it. Damien felt an unexpected hollow sensation, the loss of someone he'd alternately pitied and resented for years. The nephew arranged for a real estate company to handle the property. A "for sale" sign appeared, looking startlingly bright against the faded facade. Occasionally, prospective buyers would walk the perimeter, peering in windows, assessing necessary renovations. Damien watched these visits from his own yard, where he methodically mowed the lawn every Saturday, maintaining the home as if Oliver might return any day. 4 years of grief had carved deep lines around his eyes, salted his temples with grey. On June 15th, 2 days before the 4th anniversary of Oliver's disappearance, Damien was trimming hedges when movement next door caught his attention. Wind had partially collapsed one wall of the abandoned dog kennel. The structure listed sideways, exposing its concrete foundation. Something about the exposed earth beneath caught his eye. Unlike the hard-packed soil surrounding it, this ground appeared recently disturbed, loose with different coloration. Perhaps from the wall collapsing, he reasoned. But as he stared, a different possibility formed. That night, he couldn't sleep. The image of the disturbed soil played repeatedly in his mind. He recalled how meticulously Finch had maintained that kennel while neglecting the rest of his property. How the dogs had never been allowed to dig there. How Finch had always watched them when police searched his yard. "You're obsessing again," Liana said gently when she found him staring out the window at 2 a.m. "The police searched there multiple times." "Did they look under the concrete?" he asked. "Did they actually check beneath the kennel?" The next morning, after Liana left for work, Damien stood at their property line, staring at the collapsed structure. Every logical part of his mind told him he was grasping at shadows. Yet something deeper, call it intuition or desperation, pulled him forward. He retrieved a shovel from his garage, stepped over the low fence, crossed into property that wasn't his. With each step, his heartbeat quickened. Was this trespassing? Probably. Did he care? Not even slightly. The June sun beat down as Damien approached the kennel. Close up, he could see that one section of the concrete foundation had cracked when the wall collapsed. The disturbed soil showed through this gap, darker than it should be for ground untouched for years. His hands trembled as he positioned the shovel. The first thrust into earth felt like crossing a threshold from which he couldn't return. Metal scraped against soil compacted by years of weight above. Sweat beaded on his forehead as he worked, digging methodically around the edge of the concrete. Each scoop of dirt seemed heavier than the last. His breath came in short bursts. Somewhere in his mind, a voice whispered that he was destroying a crime scene, that he should call police first. But 4 years had taught him that waiting for others meant waiting forever. 20 minutes in, the shovel struck something that wasn't earth. a dull thud rather than the scrape of soil. Damien froze, dropped to his knees, began clearing dirt with his hands, fingers scrabbling through soil that now seemed to fight against his efforts to uncover what lay beneath. Red fabric appeared, faded, dirty, but unmistakable. A backpack. His heart nearly stopped. With trembling fingers, he brushed away more soil, revealing the small pack in its entirety. The once bright material had dulled with time and earth, but he would have recognized it anywhere. The NASA patch sewn on the front pocket, the small tear on the left strap from when Oliver had caught it on the fence. Damien's breath came in ragged gasps as he gently lifted the backpack. It felt impossibly light, yet unbearably heavy with implication. For several moments, he simply knelt, clutching it to his chest, tears streaming down his face. Finally, with fingers that felt numb, he unzipped the main compartment. Inside lay Oliver's treasures. The miniature red convertible, his favorite toy car. The crayon drawing of their house, complete with stick figures of the three of them standing hand in hand. The dented water bottle with Oliver G. printed in careful kindergarten letters. Time stopped. The world narrowed to these small objects that proved his son had been here, beneath this kennel, while they searched everywhere else. Grief and rage crashed through him in alternating waves. When awareness returned, Damien found himself in his own kitchen, the backpack on the table before him, his phone in his hand. He had no memory of walking back to his house. Detective Howard arrived within 15 minutes, face grave as he examined the backpack and its contents. Additional officers secured the Finch property. Crime scene technicians arrived with ground-penetrating radar. The property transformed into an investigation scene once more. By evening, the kennel had been completely dismantled, the concrete foundation broken apart and removed. Beneath it, investigators found more than just disturbed soil. Hair samples, fabric fragments matching the clothes Oliver had worn that day, a small shoe buried 2 feet down. And beneath the deepest section, a metal box containing Polaroid photographs, images too disturbing for officials to describe to the Graysons, but enough to confirm their worst fears. The search expanded into Finch's house. In the basement, behind a false wall in the utility room, technicians discovered a hidden compartment containing journals dating back decades. The meticulous handwriting detailed observations of neighborhood children, their routines, their playtimes, their vulnerabilities. One journal, bound in black leather, focused exclusively on Oliver. Entries described watching him play, noting his habits, his schedule, recording private family moments observed through windows. The final entry, dated June 17, 2014, contained just 3 words: "Mine at last." The police theory emerged from evidence both physical and written. Harold Finch had observed Oliver for months, learning his patterns. On June 17th, he had likely lured the curious boy into his yard, perhaps using the dogs as attraction, before taking him inside his home. The journals suggested Oliver had been kept alive briefly in the hidden basement room. The medical examiner confirmed the worst. Oliver had died within days of his abduction. Finch had then buried evidence beneath the kennel, counting on the imposing German shepherds to keep anyone from searching too thoroughly. The concrete foundation, police discovered, had been poured just 1 week after Oliver's disappearance. The community reeled with the revelations. Neighbors who had known Finch for years struggled to reconcile the quiet man who collected his newspaper each morning with the predator revealed in his journals. Parents who had searched alongside him questioned every interaction, wondering how they had missed the darkness hiding behind his unremarkable facade. For Liana and Damien, the discovery brought answers, but not peace. The confirmation of Oliver's fate collapsed the fragile structure of hope they had maintained for 4 years. Grief, no longer suspended by uncertainty, crashed upon them with renewed force. "I always believed we'd find him," Liana said during the small, private memorial service held that summer. "I just never imagined it would be like this." The media descended on Maplewood once more. National news programs detailed the shocking discovery and the seemingly ordinary man responsible. True crime podcasts analyzed every aspect of the case. Armchair detectives debated how Finch had evaded suspicion for so long. The investigation widened as authorities examined unsolved cases in areas where Finch had previously lived. The journals revealed Oliver might not have been his first victim. 2 additional sets of remains were eventually discovered on remote property Finch owned in the next county. Children who had disappeared in 2006 and 2010. For Damien, grief transformed into purpose. He established the Oliver Grayson Foundation, dedicated to improving search protocols for missing children and training officers to recognize signs of predatory behavior. He spoke at police academies and community centers, turning his family's tragedy into a tool for prevention. The monster lived next door. He would begin each presentation, not in the shadows, but in plain sight, waving as he collected his newspaper. The Finch property was eventually demolished, the land converted into a small memorial garden maintained by volunteers. Where the kennel once stood, a simple stone marker bears Oliver's name and the words, "The truth cannot remain buried forever." This case reminds us that sometimes answers lie closer than we think. If this story moved you, please share it with someone who appreciates true crime stories. Every share helps bring these important stories to light. The case of Oliver Grayson forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about the communities we consider safe. Evil doesn't announce itself with dramatic flourish. It doesn't wear a sign. It collects newspapers, maintains routines, and waves to neighbors while harboring unimaginable darkness. 4 years passed before chance, and a father's unrelenting intuition revealed what had been literally beneath their feet all along. The search had spread across counties while Oliver remained just steps from his front yard, a devastating irony that haunts investigators to this day. Detective Howard, who retired the year after the discovery, later admitted the case transformed how his department approaches neighborhood searches. "We now examine every property as if the residents are suspects, not just witnesses," he explained. "Finch taught us that normalcy can be the perfect disguise." For the children of Maplewood, the world became a little darker after Oliver's story came to light. Parents grew more watchful. Trust became more precious, more fragile. The invisible boundary between safety and danger revealed itself as thinner than anyone had imagined. Yet Damien's persistence reminds us that truth, however painful, eventually surfaces. No secret stays buried forever. No evil remains hidden indefinitely. As you lock your doors tonight, perhaps glance out your window. What secrets might be hiding next door to you? If you've made it this far, make sure to subscribe to Last Seen Stories and turn on notifications so you never miss our investigations into the cases that challenge our understanding of safety, community, and justice.